Greetings to all the students. I welcome you all on the YouTube platform of NEXT IAS, and you are watching Daily News Analysis, an initiative where we discuss the important articles published in PIBs and the different newspapers. We already had discussed what exactly to be studied from the newspapers and to which extent from our what to read initiative. Do follow that. Now, with the help of this video, the topic that we are going to discuss will be Monetary Policy Committee, Biochar, Forest Rights Act and the proposed changes in the periodic labor force survey. And in decoded session, we are going to discuss women in armed forces. Now, start with the first topic, which is visible over your screen, which is that MPC holds repo rate at 5.5%, which and says that maintains the GDP growth at 6.5%. So the topic which we need to just study, what is this MPC? Majorly about this MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee. So this is about the news that they have said that we have sustained, or I would say that they did not make any changes in the SDF or in the MSF, in the repo rate, in the bank rate, and the RBI had maintained a neutral stance. So we'll discuss first what exactly about the Monetary Policy Committee and then other words as well. So now the Monetary Policy Committee. Before we jump it, you should remember that there was a Urjit Patel Committee. Formulated in 2013 by the ex-RBI Governor Raghuram Rajanji. He along with that as well formulated two different committees as well, PJ Nayak and Nachiketa More. But this Urjit Patel Committee was brought or giving a direction with respect to the inflation targeting. So based on the recommendations that how the inflation should be targeted in India and which manner, which body should be targeted or which body should work accordingly, the Urjit Patel Committee gave the recommendation for the formulation of Monetary Policy Committee. So now what the Monetary Policy Committee is? It is a committee which actually foretells and decides the inflation pattern in India. And to what manner? The manner is 4% with the band of plus minus 2%. That means from 2 to 6% of the inflation targeting. This is the mandate of the Monetary Policy Committee. Now talk about Monetary Policy Committee. That first, the RBI Act was amended just for the Monetary Policy Committee by the Finance Act 2016, introducing a statutory and institutional framework for the MPC under section 45ZB. So this act is not very important, but the MPC is responsible for setting the benchmark repo rate to maintain inflation with the prescribed target range. We already have discussed. Now this is again very specific with respect to your prelims exam. That what is the composition of the Monetary Policy Committee? So MPC consists of 6 members. In 6 members, there are 3 members which are the external members. That means they are nominated by the Government of India. One, RBI Governor as well, the chairperson, the second one will be Deputy Governor in charge of the monetary policy in RBI, and one another person will be one RBI board nominee, which is generally a person of at the director level in the RBI. So 6 members are there in the MPC. Now how they work, the tenure as well. So external members serve as a 4-year term. Minimum 4 members, this is the quorum actually, the quorum for the meetings to take place. So minimum 4 members has to be there. Decision making by the majority vote, and governor has a casting vote facility if there is a tie. And the decision is binding on the RBI, the decision of the Monetary Policy Committee. Right? That is why we say that they are the ultimate one who are deciding the growth trajectory and the inflation trajectory of the economy of India. Now, the inflation trends that are going on with respect to India's at this moment. For say CPI headline inflation fell to 2.1% year on year part. This is not very important with respect to your prelims because no drastic change as well, right? But headline inflation is that nature of inflation where we add food and energy as well. What is the core inflation? Where we exclude the food and energy. This is the core inflation part, right? So sometimes UPSC ask you the questions based on the reasons as well, that why we are witnessing a fall in the CPI headline inflation and why we are getting a increase in the core inflation rose, the core inflation. So core inflation got rose all because of the sudden prices of the gold. At this moment, gold price perhaps today's market is 99k, 99,000, right? But the decline by the food inflation was because of improved agriculture activity and the supply side measures. Now, a little bit aspect regarding how these terms exactly means. So, the first and the foremost that we need to is repo rate and MSF. What is the repo rate? Repo rate is the interest rate at which RBI lends the short-term funds to the commercial banks against their government securities as collateral. First thing. Now, what is MSF? MSF stands for marginal standing facility. We may say that this is a very short term, over time kind of emergency window for the banks to borrow from RBI during acute liquidity shortages, pledging government securities. MSF, we may even understand that is open for the 6 days, even on holidays. That means to fulfill the needs of the liquidity, even on the holidays, the banks may ask the money from the RBI itself. So the mechanism of asking the money is this MSF, marginal standing facility. What is the basic difference? The basic difference is always, for suppose the repo rate is X, just for the hypothetical part. So the rate of MSF has to be always X plus 1. And the correlation between MSF repo rate and reverse repo rate will be like this. If repo rate is X, then MSF has to be X plus 1 and the reverse repo rate has to be X minus 1. So this is just a simple mathematical formulation based on which the prices are being determined, the rates are being determined, and you need to have this thing in your mind. Now the bank rate, this is the another part. It is the interest rate at which RBI lends long term. So repo rate is for the short term, bank rate is for the long term in general parts, without any collateral or repurchase agreement. Repurchase, for say RBI say that I will buy it at the another form, after certain date, right? For say X bank lends to another bank, and they say that after 1 month, after 2 months, I will buy it again from you. So this is the called of repurchase agreement kind of thing. Neutral stance, is something that RBI is holding a wait and watch policy. That means not taking any single decision regarding this thing. Now, these two things are again very important. First is SLR and second is CRR. The both are the part where the RBI says that the banks has to keep a minimum percentage of their NTDL, that is with the RBI, right? Net demand and time liability NTDL. What exactly it is? It is, we can say that exactly what the banks have with it or owes to the people in very simple part. This is the NTDL, right? What is the difference between SLR and CRR? CRR is the part that the money has to be deposited with the RBI in cash form. SLR on a different part has to be maintained with the RBI in liquid form. That means it could be cash, it could be gold, it could be or the government approved security. Why does they do maintain? RBI with this part try to maintain the inflation level and the recession level. For say, if the SLR rate were earlier 4%, right? We may understand this thing with this example. For say earlier it was 5%, 4%. That means now the banks has 96 rupees to lend to the customers. But now they say it is 6%. So that means now banks has 94 rupees to lend to customers, right? That means lesser 2 rupee lesser to lend. That means the lesser money to the bank itself. That means lesser money will be given to the people. That means it will counter the inflation. This is the exact mechanism with which the monetary policy framework decide the rates with respect to tackling the inflation, right? So this is this all part. Now there is a question of monetary policy that was asked in 2017 by the UPSC, and this is the very same year in 2016 when the monetary policy framework came into the existence. Now this is a practice question, and let us know the answer in the box as well. Now the second topic, this biochar. What is the potential of biochar? This is the article published, and this article with respect to the environmental issues with paper 3. Now, what about the news? There is a say that with the carbon market set to launch in 2026, the CO2 removal technologies such as biochar are expected to play a very crucial role, right? It offers sustainable alternatives to manage waste and capture carbon. So ultimately, capturing the carbon from the atmosphere is one of the major role of the biochar, right? Now, what is biochar? Biochar is carbon-rich form of charcoal made from agriculture and municipal organic waste. It captures and stores the carbons, offering a sustainable method of waste management and CO2 removal as well. Now the potential of the biochar, right? So first is India's waste potential. How we may think that the potential of biochar with respect to the waste minimization and carbon capture, CO2 capture, carbon dioxide capture. First is that India generates over 600 million tons of agriculture residue and more than 60 million tons of municipal waste annually. That means there is a more probability to make or to create the biochar with respect to this kind of huge aspect you have. By using 30 to 50% of the surplus waste, India can produce 15 to 26 million tons of biochar and can remove 0.1 gigatons of CO2 equivalent annually. Again, this is a very futuristic scenario, but ultimately very important to understand with respect to the prelims exam. Second, the bioproducts of the biochar production. Again, the syngas. Syngas even being produced, it could generate a 8 to 13 terawatt hour electricity as well, and can replace 0.4 to 0.7 million tons of coal per year, right? Another bio oil, it could replace 8% of the diesel kerosene production annually, cutting crude imports and 2% of the fossil fuels emission. Now the applications across the different sectors. First is the long-term carbon sink. Biochar can hold carbon in soil for nearby 100 to 1000 years due to strong and stable characteristics. That means this is the reason we say that it is sustainable in its own domain. Second is agriculture. It improves water retention and the soil health, particularly in semi-dry and nutrient depleted soils. Second, it lowers the fertilizer requirement and higher crop yield as well. How the fertilizer requirement lowerment will be helpful for the Indian economy? Because you say that this year as well in the budget, the government have introduced around 1,67,000 crores subsidy for the fertilizer subsidy as a part of a fertilizer subsidy. So the lower use of fertilizer will definitely have an impact on the exchequer as well, right? Third, it reduces nitrate dioxide emissions by 30-50%, right? Plus cut fertilizer used by 10%. We can again use the 2, and then afterwards it enhances soil organic carbon, helping restore degraded soil. So ultimately it is helping in not only minimizing the uses of the fertilizers, but also it is helpful for soil nutrient cycle mechanisms as well. It is helping the soil to regain its strength, right? Third, carbon capture, that we have already discussed the major part. Fourth is the construction sector, very important, because it can be explored as a low carbon alternatives to the building materials as well, right? Then adding 2.5% of biochar to concrete can improve mechanical strength, increase the heat resistance by 20% around, and can capture the point we have said that 115 kg of the CO2 per cubic meter, making the building materials or the entire building more carbon stable carbon sink or carbon resilient as well. Fifth, the waste treatment agreement. India generates more than 70 billion liters of wastewater every day, of which 72% is left untreated. So biochar offers a cost effective option to reduce pollution. Why? Because again, In here we discussed that see, this is the waste potential. Very same manner we are talking about the waste water as well, right? So that means we have the more capability to produce the biochar in the future aspect to maintain the long term sustainability aspect with the capturing of carbon within its nose. Now there are certain challenges, that means the barriers to adoption. Why there is so much of hue and cry regarding the adoption of the biochar? So first is the biochar remains underrepresented in carbon credit systems due to the absence of standardized feedstock market and consistent carbon accounting method, which undermines investor confidence. First. Second, if we even generate that the very weak monitoring system is there to place that that can verify and report the exact loopholes that you are doing. Other challenges wait for that the limited R&D and market awareness. R&D is this the research and development, right? Any technology for the futuristic technology, we need to put a little bit effort regarding the R&D, but the budget of R&D is says the nearby 0.6% of the total GDP as well. So India has many different dimensions to focus on the R&D part as well, right? For say nation quantum mission, computer mission, R&D different parts, startups, or for say, right? So the very limited manner of the R&D is a very serious problem to India's part as well. Second, no viable large business model yet, right? But it can be sorted out. Very weak monitoring, reporting, verification framework, the point that we have already discussed. And one more thing as well, that lack of coordination across various areas such as agriculture, energy and climate policy. This is the exact thing where because of which we have the minimum government and maximum governance issue always there. The reason being that if there are certain ministries that they need to work in collaboration in tandem to each other, and the file from one side to second side just goes on, and a kind of red tapeism will take place. It ultimately stretches the aspect of the goodwill and the fruit that we can generate. So now this is the practice question. It is actually a question that UPSC asked in 2022. Right? Get the answer. Let us know as well. Now the practice question. This practice question, practice the answer. Let us know the answer in the messages as well. Now the third part, the forest right. Recently the government has said that they are going to make a little bit changes with respect to the forest aspect. Now the point is that why there are certain challenges in the implementation of Forest Right Act. So the first challenge we can say is a digital barrier, right? Second challenge we can say that the state-wise disparities as well, right? Third challenge we can say that exclusion of tribal village, or I would say the forest village, and especially in it we may say that it is not considering the aspect of CFR, the community forest reserves, right? So these are actually the challenges that we are quoting with respect to the implementation of the FRAs. One more challenge as well, that the act itself says that there is a minimum days as well for the answer to be given or the decision to be taken place for the complaints. Earlier it was hardly 30 days, but now it has been enhanced the part as well. So these all things says that yes, we do need to look into the Forest Rights Act as well, right? Now the part is, what is Forest Right Act after the challenges? It recognizes and vests forest rights and land occupation in forest dwelling scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers who have lived in forest for generations. Generations mean for say nearby 2 and 3 generations, right? Any individual community that has been primarily lived on the forest land for at least 3 generations, that means 75 years, before 13 December 2005 for genuine livelihood needs to be eligible to reclaim rights. One example I would like to give, that for say you go to any of the the national park, there are certain guides that you people will follow, right? They are the guide who used to give you the advices where to follow, what to do, or other things associated. Most of the time we have witnessed that they are the part of this tribes which were earlier the parts of the forest. So they still consider the land of the forest as their motherland. That is why they have chosen this activity as well. So this FRA talks about those people and their rights accordingly. This act aims to correct the historical injustice, ensure livelihood and food security, and strengthen the forest conservation through the community participation. That means I, we, the government, state government, all work in compass to make sure that the things will become fruitful. Now the key provisions of the act. First, the Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha acts as a nodal body, and this topic is very specific with respect to the prelims as well. UPSC has already asked one kind of question in earlier the PYQs, right? So Gram Sabha is the nodal authority. Second, the types of rights recognized. The first is the title rights, where the legal ownership up to 4 hectares of the cultivated forest land per family. Second, the use right, where you can use the timber, where you can use the mine for the forest produce something. So it is the access to MFP, grazing lands, water bodies, etc. Third is relief and development rights. What it is that if they protection against the rehabilitation, protection against the illegal eviction, and the access to basic facilities subject to the forest protection guidelines as well, right? It varies state to state. Fourth, forest management rights. This is the authority to protect, regenerate, conserve and manage community forest resource traditionally cared for. Now the rationale behind the FRA 2026, that why it was formulated. To formally recognize the customary rights of the forest dwellers left unrecorded by the colonial and post-independence forest policies, first thing. The second, to address the historical injustice that was there upon the people and whose close relationship with the forest was degraded, right? They were thrown out of their forest in this perspective. Third, to empower the local community to sustainably manage forest resources and protect biodiversity. That means they are actually talking about the resource sharing management, the resource sharing mechanism or management, right? Just not resource sharing, I would say, it's just an example that I'm trying to give, but to how to use it effectively, right, for the tribal people's benefit as well. So this is the reason why I have quoted word like resource sharing management or mechanism. Fourth, to provide legal safeguards against eviction, displacement, the thing we already have talked. Now there are certain very prelims specific information. The first information we had is this, that the Gram Sabha acts as the nodal authority first. Now second is that land falls under state list, right? And Ministry of Rural Development is the nodal ministry for the land matters in entire India. Now state advise on safeguards for tribal communities against their land alienation. That means that the against the proper illegal eviction, the states is the responsible part. There are certain other initiatives by the government of India regarding their proper rehabilitation. The first one is the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act, which promotes afforestation with participation from the forest dependent communities. Second, a district mineral foundation established under MMDR Act, right, and it is under 23 states as well. The fund used for the welfare of the mining kind of or mining affected areas in the forest part. Now this is again the question that I told that has been asked. Again a very different level of question has been asked by UPSC in the PYQs as well, where the scheduled commercial right something based on the forest right was linked and how it is used with the or which the body it authorizes. The answer was Gram Sabha. Now this is the practice question, visible over the screen, right? Just try it and let us know in the chat box as well. Now the changes in the periodic labor force survey, right? That means the government is trying to change certain periodic labor force survey from 2025. What kind of changes? The changes that in what manner it is going to be conducted onwards. This is the manner, right? One more thing as well, why this survey is important. These kind of surveys are important to get the exact data, so that, very simple part, so that we can formulate better policies. This is the one aspect of the PLFS kind of surveys. Now, the news is that NSO, National Statistical Office, has revamped the PLFS methodology from January 2025 to improve frequency, coverage and the accuracy of labor market estimates. Now, the PLFS. It is a survey conducted by NSO, National Statistics Office, under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. This is again important. One is important, and Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is again important with respect to a prelims exam. Now, why? Because to estimate the key employment and unemployment indicators, it releases both monthly and annual data. What kind of indicators? For say the female participation rate, right? How many of the females are being participated, the man participation rate, leaving rate, different things. The picture has to be clear. That is why the PLFS has been conducted, right? The annual report providing estimates in both user status and CWS. What are those? We'll discuss later. Now, the key changes, that means the changes that are proposed in the functioning of the PLFS now. So, the first one is monthly estimates introduced. Now, earlier we witnessed that there was monthly data and the annual data, right? But now they are saying that it will enable the generation of monthly estimates of key labor market indicators for say LFPR, WPR, UR at all India level following the current weekly status approach. This is one of the method with which we try to figure out the employment in India, right? Employment in India. Second, quarterly estimates extended to rural areas. That means now it will provide quarterly labor market indicators for the urban areas only up to, but now it will be for the entire country, including the rural employment data as well. So, this is a very significant and a very good step as well. Third, enhanced sample size and coverage. The first stage units increased from 12,018 to 22,692 annually now, right? What are the first stage units? They are typically in rural areas 2111 census, in urban areas urban frame survey use. And what are these? They are nothing but just a geographical units used for the sample selection. For say we have chosen the X state and in X we have chosen the Y particular area. So, this Y area is an example of the first stage unit, right? So that we can have the entire survey get done. Now, the conceptual framework, the word that we just used, right? In here, just say we talked about the current weekly status approach. So, what are they? What the difference? For say the activity status, it is a status of a person determined on the basis of the activities pursued by a person during a specified reference period, right? For say two things: current weekly status, usually activity status. Current weekly activity status determined on the basis of reference period of the past 7 days preceding the date of survey. First thing, usual activity status, that means reference period of last 635 days, that means 1 year. They both are the areas with which we even implement the data or gather the data for employment in India. Mind this thing. So, this current weekly wala, this current weekly, the usual past period as well, right? Second is labor force participation rate. What it is? It is defined as the percentage of person in the labor force, right, in the population. For say, if we say that 55% of the labor participation rate is, that means that out of 100, 55 people are working as a labor, right? Second, worker population ratio. It is defined as the percentage of employed persons in the population. Unemployment rate, the point we already have discussed, this based on this data we used to define by the underemployment rate. So, it is defined as the percentage of person unemployment among the persons in the labor force. Now, this is again a practice question over your screen. Practice this and let us know in the chat box as well. Now, this topic is important with respect to the decoded session, that why exactly these things are being witnessed, right? So, the topic over your screen is that women in the armed forces, right? Recently, Supreme Court begins hearing pleas of women army officers denied the permanent commissions. A certain number of women who were the part of the, the women, the armed forces, they approached to the Supreme Court, quoting that there are certain areas that because of which the permanent job or permanent this army officers tag is not been given. So the key allegations that they put in the Supreme Court were that there was unfair annual confidential report grading system. Second, they say that lack of equal opportunities compared to the male officers. And the third part that they said that there was a issue with the arbitrariness empanelment for promotion to the colonel rank, right? So these are the arguments, the allegations that they put against the exact theory that has been there. So we'll try to understand what the issue is, the thing that we are going to discuss with this articles. So the point that we are going to discuss this article is the rise of women in the armed forces in the last decades. First, importance of women in the armed forces, challenges of faced by the women in the armed forces, measures needed, and then conclusion. So in 5 parts we'll complete this entire part, right? Now the rise of women in the armed forces in the last decades, the number speaks about them. The first is increase in the number. The women officers, both Army, Naval and Air Force, rose from 3,000 to 11,000 in 2025. Permanent commission, 507 women officers have been granted permanent commission, enabling a full-fledged careers and leadership roles in the defense forces. Third, entry into NDA. Recently, you know that after the Supreme Court's verdict, the NDA part was open to the women. So that means now more women will be able to enter at the armed forces at the very initial level. Fourth, the historic graduation. On May 30th, 2025, the first batch of female NDA cadets graduated alongside male peers, marking a symbolic step toward the gender inclusion in the armed forces. And expanded roles. Women can now serve in the combat role, aviation, operational command roles in all the 3 services. And recently we even witnessed that during the Operation Sindoor, there were 2 different female officers were representing and was the voice of the government or regarding the Operation Sindoor. So this is the importance, the government showed the importance of the gender inclusion in the armed forces, but still there are certain challenges. So now we'll talk about the importance of women in the armed forces and then later on the challenges. First, the diverse perspective. We always know that in a team there has to be, not if there is a team there are 4 kind of people. Not only one will be eastward looking only, one at least has to be westward, so that you can have a diverse viewpoint. Once the diverse viewpoint, it shows that you can have a better discussion and the better democratic decision will come out. This is this diverse perspective we are talking about, that women contributes a very unique viewpoints and problem solving styles, which boost the innovation and leading to a better decisions and the mission success. Second, enhanced capabilities. Now technological advancement are being witnessed thoroughly, right? The use of AI was even witnessed with the Akash Tir. The use of AI was even witnessed with the air defense systems in India in Operation Sindoor. So advancement of technology can even make sure that the women can be as effective as part of the men in understanding and utilizing the harness or the impact of the technology. So with strength in the technology, communication, intelligence, women add significant value to the modern military operations. Third, social cohesion. Their presence improves the cross-cultural understanding and interpersonal dynamics within units and during their deployments. Fourth, wider talent pool, including women, helps address recruitment gaps by tapping into a broader base of qualified candidates. Fourth, this wider talent pool, nowadays whenever we are having different sports, different field, we are watching that once the women was giving a chance, they have reached to the zenith in that particular field. That means the talent is there. The issue was there that certain parts were circumvented for their use, but now it has been opened. So not only there are more chances that they'll lead from the zenith, but there will be more inclusion as well, not only in terms of strengthening with respect to the decision making, but even with the combat readiness and the combat artifice as well. Last, inspiration and the leadership. The point I just mentioned that in Operation Sindoor, right, we have 2 female officers representing the voice of Government of India. So this shows the leadership and the inspiration aspect of the women's in the armed forces as well, right? And now we have witnessed that once a woman is there, for say we can take the examples of Kiran Bedi ji, right? She was the very first woman to be accorded as the IPS, and she herself said that I was the only single person in the entire batch, right? The entire family was against of me, but I took a decision. And now followed her, there are more and more officers in the IPS, and they are working in a very effective mode. So this is the very futuristic scenario with the very same level in the armed forces as well. So inspiration and leadership will be there. But now the challenges that they are facing. The first is physical standard. The combat roles demand high endurance, differing training norms, raise concerns on equality and effectiveness, right? For say marine commandos are different, energy commandos are different, paratroops are different. So different category people are being defined in the particular arena. So that will be a challenge. Second, the cultural bias. Traditional mindset often undermines women's authority, especially in the leadership roles. This is what we exactly witness during our in our homes and in different parts in the leadership as well. We may even understand this thing with the help of the data that the role of women in the parliament is even minimum, right? The percentage of the women that should be is very minimum compared even to countries like Kenya. So with respect to the women participation in the politics, we are even far behind that compared to a country like Kenya, right? So this cultural bias will be there for sure. Third, limited combat roles. This may link with the physical standard, right? Because if you will not let them in the combat roles, then it will definitely restrict their career growth and higher command opportunities. Last, work-life balance, because the maternity issues are there. So inadequate maternity, child care, spousal support, all those things will be there, which will definitely impact their career continuity. Mental health, isolation, stress, or in male dominated environments lead to an emotional stress and higher suicidal case. We have even witnessed when certain officers were crying on the social media, quoting that they were very misbehaved by certain seniors or their colleagues, right? So this mental health dogma is always there in the mind. And last, infrastructure gaps. For say a lack of gender sensitive facilities and healthcare affects the performance and the well-being as well. So although the healthcare facilities are there, but the inclusion of women will demand a very different level of healthcare as well. So in person and in particular, health facilities must be there. If it's not, then it will definitely detrimental to their parts as well. Now the measures that are needed. So the first measure we can say that equitable training. We need to maintain a gender role specific or gender neutral standards that align with the operation needs while ensuring rigorous and the fair training in the training period itself. Second, bias reduction. We need to implement mandatory sensitization and anti-bias training across ranks to foster mutual respect and inclusive teamwork as well. One more thing as well, in equitable training and bias reduction, we may use one psychologist that may come during the training, right? And the example that I'm going to give you, you can use it in your UPSC mains exam as well. That we can have one-on-one psychologist, a female psychologist based talk with the female officers. There might be a scenario that the female officer will not be very comfortable in speaking with their seniors if he is a male partner, but a psychologist, if a female psychologist is there, and once in a month a meeting will be scheduled, right, for some mental awareness or mental peace kind of sessions, that they may be open regarding the things. and with this theory or with succession, we may reach out to the place where this exact equality will be maintained in the armed forces during the training and after the training as well. This is a very important point, right? Third, monitoring and evaluation. We need to introduce a gender equality index to track recruitment, retention, promotion, leadership aspects, different things. Now, the global best practice. We need to adapt successful models like Israel's mixed gender battalions and the US role-based physical tests tailored to India's context. Peacekeeping and collaboration. Use UN missions and joint exercises to build experience, visibility, operational integration of women. India, for a perspective, is definitely using the women in the operational integration in the US, in the UN peacekeeping forces for sure. This is 100% guarantee, right? But more augmentation should be there so that the more number of female officers will come up with their different experiences, and the lecture should be given to the other people to follow on and to innovate. Now, early awareness. We need to incorporate this all military and gender equality themes in NEP 2020 curricula so that the school outreach to inspire future women officers, right? Why this point is especially because even if you take the examples of the people, the 70% of the people who are living in the rural areas. Although these people are talented, the students, the males and the females are talented, but they are not aware. And all because of the not aware citizen, they do not even know that until they attain the age of 19, they will look for the NDAs, right? Or even they, if 1%, 2%, 10% looking for the NDA, then in what manner they need to look for. So this earlier awareness has to be there. Last, supportive infrastructure for say ensuring proper sanitation, accommodation, creche facilities. The counseling session that I just maintained for the work-life balance has to be there. Right. So this is all regarding the today's daily news analysis session. I hope that it was fruitful to you. You learned, you understood, and you have practiced the questions and let us know the answers in the message as well. All the best, guys. Keep watching daily news analysis. Keep studying. Thank you very much.